My name is Trevor Fall, and I've been teaching IELTS since 2007 approximately, and helping students get ready for their academic exams. Today we're going to talk about IELTS Writing Task 2. Last week we talked about Writing Task 1, both the general and the academic exam. So you can go to our website and you can see the video that I made with different students explaining how to formalize and how do you organize your Writing Task 1. With general, it's like a letter, a complaint letter often. And with with the academic, it's a chart or a graph that you're explaining like like you would in university. Today I'm going to get into, and next week, because I'm not going to cover all of the advice, but we're going to talk about writing task 2, which is the essay. And so I'm going to share the screen and just go through some of the suggestions and advice that I have. With the IELTS Task 2, it's the same whether you're taking general or academic. So they don't make a difference with that. So what you're going to see here is more of an academic, you'll see how it's more advanced, but even if you're taking general and your writing or vocabulary is not as advanced as this example, that's okay. I'm going to show you what are the important parts to put in your essay. So can everyone see the screen clearly?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I guide students
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Hi, Nicole. Thank you. So what I guide students through, and it's actually not much difference if you were taking a 4-month course or a 6-month course at a university or college with how to write. It's 4 steps, but what I've done is I've condensed it over the years to make it short and easy to memorize and to understand. And so what I ask students to do is to write an essay. I use a 45-minute timeline because with IELTS, you have 1 hour and you have task 1 and you have task 2. So typically students would spend 12, 15, maybe 20 minutes on task 1 and then 40 to 45 minutes on task 2. And when you first start writing, probably it takes you a little bit more time, but once you've practiced this over 3 or 4 essays, you'll find that it gets faster and the time for you to think of ideas and to write them down becomes shorter. I also ask students to write 2 drafts, meaning you write down your essay and the information, then you find someone to correct it and to make some changes, suggestions, then write it a second time, because when you're writing it a second time, you start to remember the different parts that a teacher has emphasized or that a teacher is focused on. And so when students have written 3 to 5 essays, 2 drafts each, usually they start to see very quickly, okay, this is what a teacher is looking for. And I'll comment now, although I may say it again later. Most students get a topic, they look at it and they just start writing. And what I want students to do is slow down and think, what is the teacher looking for? So not just what are your ideas coming out, but what are the different parts of an essay that a teacher needs to look at? So let's get into how we organize the essay. I'm going to spend today more time on the first 2 points, and then we'll still look at point 3 and maybe point 4, but today most of it will be on the first 2 points. So the first thing when students get a topic, doesn't matter what it's about the environment, about technology, about water pollution. I want students to take a couple of minutes to understand the question. So what are the key words? What are they supposed to write about? Are they answering about problems with water pollution? Are they answering about solutions? Is it asking your opinion? What are the specific points that you're supposed to know for the question? And then typically in IELTS, there's one of 3 styles: opinion, comparison contrast, or problem solution. The good news is how you organize it is the same for all 3 styles. You don't need to memorize different formats or styles of organization, but you should have specific parts in this. but how you're writing your opinion essay will be a little bit different than comparison, contrast, or problem solution, and I'll explain that later today. So you look at the question, understand it, identify, is it asking for my opinion? Is it asking me to compare two things? Or am I supposed to explain about problems and some solutions? Then think of 4 to 6 ideas to write about. So most of the time here, students say, Mr. Trevor, I never can think of 2 or even 1 idea. How are you expecting me to think of 4 to 6 ideas? And this is a common problem. I've marked over 2,000 essays. I've taught over, well, I know at least 1,000 students over the last 15 years with essays and exams. And it's a common problem. It doesn't matter what country you're from, because how we're writing in the Western mindset is idea-specific details, idea-specific details. And in other cultures, or just thinking of ideas, usually it's not as fluid, or you're not always remembering how to be writing in that style. So what I often have students do is, over several essay topics, rather than writing 3 or 4 different essays, you look at 3 or 4 different essays, and then you identify and think about what are some ideas I can write about and how would I organize it. Then instead of writing the whole essay, go to a new topic, think of the ideas, think about how to organize it. So that kind of structure will then help you to get practice in thinking of ideas. And I have a homework sheet that I'll send you that you can be working on with that. So once you've looked at the question, you've taken a few minutes and understand what the format is and what you're going to write about, then I want you to look and choose your best 3 ideas. And the reason is, if I have 2 ideas only and I just write on those 2 ideas, if one idea is weaker, now the teacher can only give you marks on the first idea. But if you have 4 or 5 ideas, you choose the best 3. If one idea is not as strong, you still have 2 other paragraph ideas that are strong that you can get marks for. So I always encourage students in practice, write the best 3 ideas, and then write down your thesis statement. So I'll go into a bit more detail with this. Your thesis statement, oftentimes students say, I'm going to talk about water pollution and how to solve it. That's okay, but that's very general. You're making the teacher look through the rest of the paragraph or the essay to figure out what are your specific points. It's best in your introduction to say, I'm going to talk about water pollution and 2 ways to solve it. Because then right away as a teacher, I know what's your topic, and I know that you're going to focus on 2 main ideas or 3 ideas, whatever you're thinking of. Lastly, in this step, I want students to think of specific examples. Very, very often students are too general. It's very far, it's very hot, it's very expensive, or many people think that this is a good idea. That's not telling the teacher very much. When you're preparing for your essay, you need to be specific and think through, how will I explain how far it is or how many people think of this idea? So here's a couple of tips. When you're thinking of specific examples, try to think of some numbers. So maybe you say, well, Mr. Trevor, I don't know how many people like this idea. Well, that's okay, but what you could say is 3 of my 5 friends, or about 70%. So those numbers, that gives you some numbers, but it's something that we can't argue with, because I don't know if it's 21% or 39%, but if you said it's around 30%, that gives at least a range or a number, rather than saying, yeah, it's not a lot, or, oh, it's so many. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. What I often want students to do then is just very simply write, what's your main idea with how many ideas you'll talk about? So, sorry, main topic with how many ideas? And then just a couple of words, not complete sentences, but what will you say in the first paragraph? What's your example? First example, second example. Second paragraph, first example, second example. So doing this at the start, you can see if you take 3 to 5 minutes for brainstorming and 4 to 6 minutes, out of your 45 minutes, you've already spent 8 or 10 minutes. So some students panic and say, Mr. Trevor, I can't write an essay if I take 10 minutes to think about it. Well, actually you can with a little bit of practice, because what we're doing here is getting your skeleton. You're getting just a couple of words and you're thinking about it and identifying it. Once you have this information, now it's going to actually be fast, because now you're just expanding it into sentences when you write your essay. So let me show you an example just of these first two steps, and then we'll see if you have any questions and focus on that. So let's look at this question here. What's the best country in the world? So if this was the example, if this was the question on an exam, it's a little bit general for an IELTS question, but it's a good example to use. So what's the best country in the world? So Brainstorm, I identify the keywords and I start to think about what type of question. Well, so the keywords are best country. So I need to think, what's a great country? When I think of a country that's good, or that I want to move to, or that I'd like to live in, what makes it good or great? Secondly, this is not comparison contrast. It's not problem solution. I'm not solving problems. I'm not showing two ideas. I'm just giving my opinion. So that makes it a little bit easier, because I can think of different things of why I want to be in a country that's the best. So usually because of our time, I'm just going to show you these ideas. Usually I ask for feedback from the class, but that's if we have an hour or 2 hour class. But when I'm thinking of a great country, maybe some ideas are education, healthcare, the people are nice, peaceful, good tourist places, maybe there's good business opportunities, it's not corrupt or challenging to do business, maybe it's a cheaper country to live in. So I just think of a couple of ideas, what's a good country. Then I want to choose the 3 best ideas. So let me give you an example. Maybe I think opportunity for business is a great idea, but then my mind goes blank during the test and I'm thinking, what do I write about? I don't know what to say. In that case, it's no longer a best idea. So, I mean, it's a great idea, but you need to choose 3 ideas that are best for great information, but also how can I think of 2 examples for each idea? And if you're not coming up with specific details, put it to the side and have a different idea that you can defend and argue about more easily. Okay, so choose the best 3 ideas, then write down some examples, and then your thesis statement. So let's go through this and see what I did. So just ignore the thesis statement for a minute. Let's look at our ideas. So I say, okay, out of these parts, I'm going to talk about education, I'm going to talk about healthcare, and I'm going to talk about tourist places. So for me, I've chosen those 3 ideas, and I'm thinking, okay, why is education great? Well, for me, I'm saying Canada is the best country. So what's education like in Canada? Well, we have very top quality universities, and we also have free education from kindergarten to grade 12. So that's quick, it's easy, I can explain it in details. With healthcare, I know that it's free in Canada, and here I have a bit of advantage because my mom was a nurse in a hospital. So my specific details talk about our technology. I know that we have good X-ray and MRIs. We have some of the best heart and stroke specialists in the world, and there's lots of cancer research that's done in Canada. Now, I know that from my knowledge. You might know other ideas about what you have heard or how you're explaining what your best ideas are for a great country. And then tourist places, I talk about the Rocky Mountains and Niagara Falls. And again, those are 2 areas that I've been a part of and I've traveled to. I grew up about 4 hours from the Rocky Mountains, and I've been to Niagara Falls once, and I've seen lots of pictures and videos. So again, for me, these are quick and easy to just write down and to make this organization. Okay, so let me just pause there and see if there's any questions that you have from what I've said so far.
Yeah. Yes, I have a question.
Sure.
About the ideas, organizing the ideas in paragraphs. I've seen some people say that you should only write one idea per paragraph. But sometimes other teachers suggest just to write two paragraphs, while you need to put, for example, for problem solution,
Yeah.
they say write a paragraph for problems and another paragraph for solutions. In problems, you will have more than one idea.
Okay.
So how to fit that in one paragraph, or is it okay to have more than just two paragraphs?
Yeah, so great question. So when I have students practicing to write for me, I want them to do more than they might do on the exam. Okay, I'll answer your question in two parts. So when I look at a soccer team, or I look at a football team or a basketball team, they don't practice for 30 minutes because they only play in the game for 30 minutes. What they do is practice for 1 hour, hour and a half, 2 hours. And Tawfiq, you can relate to this because of your background with sports, but they practice more than what they need to have for the game. So when I have students write examples, I want you to have a full 2 or 3 sentence introduction, 3 body paragraphs with 2 ideas each, and a 2 or 3 sentence conclusion. And I'll coach you and teach you on how to get all of those parts. During the exam, though, you have to monitor your time. So that's where sometimes students do writing task 1 first, and then they look at what's left for writing task 2. But I have lots of students that actually do the essay first because it's worth two-thirds of your mark, and then they just squeeze in at the end. So maybe it takes 45, 50 minutes for the essay, then they write quickly with their task 1. So there's different strategies with the time management. But during the test, you might only have time to write 2 body paragraphs and just a couple of quick ideas. But you'll find if you're practicing and take time to do step 1 and 2, and you get good at this part, the rest of it becomes easier, and it'll be simpler for you to write 270, 300 words in that 40 or 45 minutes. But if you're not practicing this, you just get a topic and you just start writing, lots of times that's where the essay will go off track, or you'll be struggling to identify and to write in that time frame. Okay, so I kind of answered your question, but I talked more about the strategy because for the teacher, it doesn't matter to us because we're looking at the complexity of your sentences, your vocabulary, your transition signals, the cohesive devices. There's a lot that we're looking at as a package. So if what you have 2 paragraphs and 2 ideas, and Nicole has 3 paragraphs and 1 idea, 2 ideas, 1 idea, and Mohammed has, more complete. Mohammed might have a longer, more complete essay, but he may also just have a lower score because he hasn't developed the ideas strongly and his vocabulary is weaker. Okay. So it's a combination of these different parts that the teachers are looking for that. Is that
Great,
helpful?
thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I have time for one more question, and then I'm going to give you guys homework for today, and then we have a conversation class that'll start after this in about 5 minutes.
Can I ask a question, please?
Mr. Tribor?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So Mohammed, yeah, what is your question? And then take yours.
I will let Nicole to ask if you don't. No problem.
Okay.
I will come next.
Sure. Okay, Nicole. Yeah. What question do you have?
For this topic, how many words that I need to input in this question?
Yeah.
In example, it's 30 minutes or 40 minutes in exam.
Yes. So you have to write a minimum of 250 words. And so with task 1, 150 words, task 2, 250 words. If you follow what I'll teach you today and next week, and you organize, you have several ideas, you have several specific details in each paragraph, it's actually not that difficult. The challenge for many students come when they're writing. If they just think of one idea, like one topic and then one specific detail, one idea, one detail, that's where it starts to become shorter. But I'll show you, and as you practice, you'll be able to expand to get to 250 words. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And Mohammed, what's your question?
First of all, greetings for all of you, and especially thanks for Mr. Trevor for the efforts you exerted in correcting our task one.
Okay.
Really good and constructive comments I have received about my task. I would like to ask about the structure of the paragraph, especially the body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2.
Okay.
Some people or some teachers advise that we have to write first of all a topic sentence, and then we have to get a support sentence, and then we can give an example. So my question is, how can we swap between the support sentence and example, or should be the construction in order? First of all, topic sentence, and then support sentence to explain the topic sentence, and then the example, or we can switch to put the example above. This is actually a kind of puzzling, and maybe the second part of my question is, sometimes in the comparison, or no, not the comparison, the problem solution paragraph,
Yeah.
you can include the solution within the problem within the same paragraph.
Yeah.
That would be more will be clearer than just add a big paragraph about the problem and then second big paragraph about the solution. So
Yeah.
I need your advice about both of them.
Okay, so I'm still sharing the screen. So I think if you can see, what I've done is, after I have the step 1 and 2 example, I've then written a essay and I've broken it down into sections. So because of our time, I'm just going to go through this quickly, but then I'm going to send these documents to you. Some of you might already have these from previous classes, but you'll see with body paragraph 1, I have my topic sentence, I have a general sentence, then I have my first example. Depends on the topic and your idea, because your question was, can I move this sentence here, maybe to a different point? So I think you should always start with your topic sentence, but you might go into your first example, and then you might have a general sentence between your first example and your second example. Again, it's going to depend on how the ideas come in your mind, but I want you guys to practice always having at least 2 examples. Whether you put in that filler sentence or the connector sentence after the topic sentence, like my example, or maybe you even put that at the bottom or at the end of the paragraph, connecting that idea with the next body paragraph. That's, I'm not going to give you less marks if you put it in a different place. Let's put it that way. But I want to see these different parts in what I'm seeing. In response to your second question, whether you have problem solution 1 paragraph, a second problem solution, again, that's similar to what I answered, I think, with Tawfiq. How it's organized there, problem, two problems, and then 2 solutions, or 1 problem, 1 solution in a paragraph, another solution in a paragraph. When you're brainstorming and making your outline, that's where I think that, like, if you're thinking of lots of ideas and it's quick and easy with the first, your problem, and then you're stuck on solutions, your essay will probably reflect that you're going to write more in your problem section and then shorter sections. So it's kind of, for me, it's hard to answer because it'll depend on the topic, how familiar you are with it, and how you can kind of get different ideas to expand that. If you make it even with each section, so you'll see when I'm writing mine, I have topic sentence, general, example A, example B. Next body paragraph, topic sentence, general, example A, example B. I'm very consistent because that looks better. and I'll talk about your looks next week, but how we look in life determines how people accept us or think of us as professional or a tourist. How your essay looks, because I don't see, when I'm marking essays, I don't see a name, a person's nationality, ethnic background, race, male or female, young or old. I see a number on the top of the exam, and I have to see what's in that person's mind just based on how they've written. So when parts of these are missing, and because I've marked over 2,000 essays, I know it's more than that, but at least 2,000 essays since 2004, just because of how I teach and how many times students write for me. And I've seen so many, it's just for me automatically, I need to see these parts. I can give you a 7 or a 7.5 or an 8. If some of these parts are missing and they're quick and easy to put in, that's what I teach in my classes to help you. Okay.
Thanks.
So because of our time, I want to move, I need to move very quickly into, I'm just going to the chat. I need to move very quickly into the conversation. So first of all, I'll give you the link for our conversation. Second of all, you might not have enough time to access this because I do need to stop and switch over to conversation class, but I'm going to send you 2 files. Well, okay, let's do it this way because this will be easier. I'm going to give you my email, and you can also request information through our Facebook group. But my email is IELTS, I-E-L-T-S, test, T-E-S-T, prep, P-R-E-P, @yahoo.ca. That stands for a Canadian email address. But I've used this email for many years. So send me, let me type to you the question. So I want you to write about this question. Should teens work part-time while they are in high school? Give reasons and examples to support your answer. Write at least 250 words. And keep track of your time. And the reason is, when we're looking at your time, it doesn't matter to me if today it takes you an hour and 20 minutes or an hour and 10 minutes to write the essay. I don't care how long it takes, but I want to know how long it takes, because then we're going to analyze and see where are you spending more time, and then how do we get this shorter, because I have time limits for each area. And we'll look at how do we speed up. Maybe you're spending too much time in organizing. Maybe you're just spending too much time in writing and you actually need to spend more time organizing so your writing is faster. Maybe you're not spending any time with changing or making reviews, and so then we need to work on that. So as I see how long it takes you, then we can start to analyze how do we get you faster so you're writing in 45 minutes or less. Okay.
So just a second, the second sentence after should teens work part-time, there should be what's your opinion, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's an opinion. Yeah. Okay.
Like,
okay.
But in the exam, they're not going to say what's your opinion. You're going to have to identify, is this opinion, problem, solution?
Okay.
So the question, this is actually a question that I've used with hundreds of students over the last 6-7 years, because it was a question from IELTS in the past. I think now they have a little bit different, technology in the classroom, or when should students start learning a second language. But this was a question, and it was worded in this format.
Okay.
Except for keep track of your time. That's my addition. Okay, I need to end off because there's people waiting for the conversation class. I have the Zoom link there, so please join us so that we can discuss and interact with conversation. And we have another session in 3 hours. So depending on which country you're in and what time it is, it'll be the same information, but you're welcome to join us for the second class as well. It'll be like our class now started at Winnipeg time 8:30 to 9. So the second IELTS class will be 11:30 to 12, which is 3 hours later in your country. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for joining. We'll talk to you
Bye.
again. Bye.